Thank you all for joining us tonight. What is this?
Rory! I won't let you ignore him any longer. He deserves to know the truth.
The rooftop of the Apex in Manhattan shimmered under a canopy of stars. The golden glow of chandeliers reflected off crystal champagne flutes. Adrian Cole, the self-made tech billionaire behind Cole Dynamics, stood at the center of it all. At 42, he was the very definition of success. A sharp suit tailored to perfection, a watch worth more than most homes, and a smile that could close deals worth billions. His empire had revolutionized satellite technology, connecting the world in ways unimaginable when he started from nothing. Tonight, he was announcing his engagement to Claire Whitmore, the elegant heiress whose family name opened doors even Adrian's money couldn't. Claire and I are thrilled to share this next chapter. Adrian spoke confidently into the microphone. The crowd erupted into applause. Investors, celebrities, media moguls, camera flashes burst across the rooftop. Claire beamed beside him, her diamond ring catching the light like a supernova. This was his world. Power, prestige, and absolutely no room for weakness. But then, the elevator doors opened, a quiet mechanical hiss, and suddenly, the room fell silent. A woman stepped out. She wore a simple black dress. Beside her, a young boy held tightly to her hand. She walked forward with quiet determination. Her eyes locked directly on Adrian. The boy looked about 11 years old. A small backpack hung from his shoulders. His gaze was curious, but steady. Adrian's smile faded. The champagne glass slipped slightly in his hand. Lena Brooks. A name from another life. A life of instant noodles, shared apartments, and dreams scribbled onto napkins. They had loved each other once, back when Adrian was just a struggling coder, in a cramped startup apartment. She was the only person who believed in him. But when Lena told him she was pregnant, he panicked. Success demanded sacrifice. At least, that's what he told himself. He left, changed his number, moved cities, and buried the past. The music stopped. Every step Lena took echoed across the marble floor. Whispers spread through the guests like wildfire. Claire tightened her grip on Adrian's arm. Lena? Quote. Adrian's voice barely escaped his lips. But the microphones caught it. The room froze. Lena stopped a few feet away. Her chin lifted. Adrian, she said quietly. Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. This is your son. A collective gasp filled the rooftop. Adrian stared at the boy. Noah, that was his name, and the resemblance was undeniable. The same piercing blue eyes. The same dark, unruly hair. The same stubborn jawline. You're lying. Adrian's voice cracked with disbelief. The elite guests shifted uncomfortably. Phones quietly lifted, recording everything. Claire's cheeks flushed red, her perfect evening collapsing around her. But Lena didn't move. I tried to tell you years ago, she said calmly. You disappeared. You changed everything. I raised him alone, but he deserves to know who his father is. She glanced down at Noah. The boy looked up at Adrian with wide, curious eyes. Adrian's mind spun in disbelief. This couldn't be real. Not here. Not tonight. Why now? Quote. Adrian demanded. After all these years? Quote. Lena held his gaze. Because he's 11, and he's starting to ask questions I can't answer alone. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes carried the weight of years. Then the boy spoke, his voice soft, but clear. Mom says you build satellites. I watch them through my telescope. The words struck Adrian like a punch. Simple, innocent, no accusation, just truth. The room blurred around him. Claire pulled Adrian aside. Her voice was sharp and urgent. Handle this, now, before it becomes a scandal. Adrian nodded slowly. We'll do a DNA test. His tone hardened again. If this is some kind of ploy. Quote. It's not, Lena interrupted. But fine. Prove it to yourself. Security gently escorted them toward a private room. As Lena and Noah walked away, Noah turned back once, and Adrian saw it clearly. The boy looked exactly like him. When he was young, curious, hopeful, alone, and for the first time, in 20 years of winning, Adrian Cole realized something terrifying. He might have already lost the most important thing in the world. 2 days later, the DNA results arrived. They came sealed inside a crisp envelope from a discreet private laboratory. Adrian Cole sat alone in his penthouse office, high above Manhattan. Through the massive glass windows, the Hudson River stretched into the distance, while the city sprawled below him, like a kingdom he had conquered. Janet Morales stood quietly nearby. She was Adrian's chief operating officer, and the only person he had trusted with the truth. Adrian slowly opened the envelope. His hands, usually steady in billion-dollar negotiations, felt strangely heavy. He read the result, then whispered softly, "It's true." Janet sighed. There was no shock in her eyes, only quiet understanding. "What now, boss?" she asked gently. Adrian crumpled the paper in his hand. "I have to see him." But doubt crawled through his mind. Fatherhood? He built companies. He built satellites. He built empires. Families were something other people built. Success demanded focus. No distractions. No weakness. Yet the memory of the boy's eyes would not leave him. Lena's address led him across the river to a modest neighborhood in Brooklyn, a world away from glass towers and private elevators. The apartment building was old brick, faded from decades of weather. Children played stickball in the street, their laughter echoing between buildings. Adrian parked his sleek black SUV. A block away, he pulled on a baseball cap and dark sunglasses. For the first time in years, the billionaire tried to disappear. He walked slowly toward the building and knocked on the door. His heart pounded harder than it had during his first investor pitch. The door opened. Lena stood there. Her expression was guarded. "Come in," she said. "But don't upset him." The apartment was small, but warm. Bookshelves overflowed with secondhand novels. The kitchen table carried the scratches and memories of many years. On the couch, Noah sat quietly. He was turning a worn baseball glove over in his hands. He looked up, curious, but not impressed. "Hi," Noah said simply. Adrian cleared his throat. "Hi, Noah." He hesitated. "I'm Adrian." Noah nodded casually. "Mom said you're my dad." No anger, no accusation, just a simple fact. Adrian nodded slowly and sat down across from him. The conversation began awkwardly, but slowly. The silence softened. Noah showed him his science fair trophies. Small projects about constellations, built from cardboard and pieces of string. Beside the window stood a small telescope. One of the lenses was cracked and held together with tape. "I fixed it myself," Noah said proudly. Adrian felt something tighten deep inside his chest. This was the life he had run from. Hand-me-down clothes, broken equipment, dreams built from scraps. But Noah didn't complain. Instead, he asked something simple, something devastating. "Why didn't you want me?" Quote, the question shattered the room. Adrian looked toward Lena, who stood in the kitchen doorway, watching silently, her arms crossed. Quote, the words felt strange in his mouth. "I was scared. I thought I had to choose success over everything." Lena finally spoke, her voice calm, but heavy with years of exhaustion. "I worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day, cleaning offices at night. We made it, but he needed a father." Adrian lowered his head. Guilt flooded through him. Over the following weeks, he began visiting quietly, sometimes in the evenings, sometimes on weekends. Slowly, he learned more about Noah. The boy loved astronomy, because, as Noah explained, stars don't leave, and he loved baseball, because it's about trying again after you strike out. One Saturday, Adrian drove to Noah's Little League game. He parked far away, so no one would recognize him. Then he sat quietly on the old bleachers, surrounded by parents with coolers and folding chairs. On the field, Noah stepped onto the pitcher's mound. His small frame stood determined. Against the bright afternoon sun, he threw the ball. Strike. Another pitch. Strike two. Then the final throw. Strike three. The batter walked away defeated. And Adrian felt something he had never felt before. Pride, pure and overwhelming. But back in Manhattan, Claire began to notice changes. One evening at their favorite Michelin star restaurant, she finally confronted him. "You're distant." Her voice was sharp. "This is our life, Adrian. Don't let the past ruin it." But Adrian couldn't stop, because the boy he once abandoned was slowly becoming the only person Adrian Cole wanted to impress. The bond grew tentatively, like a satellite slipping into its proper orbit after years of drift. Adrian invited Noah to the Cole Dynamics headquarters one crisp autumn afternoon. The towering glass building gleamed in Midtown Manhattan, a monument to everything Adrian had built. Noah stepped into the lobby, eyes widening at the holographic displays floating above the reception desk. Miniature galaxies spinning, data streams pulsing like living veins. But when the private elevator shot upward to the 50th floor, Noah gripped his backpack straps tighter, suddenly small against the polished steel walls. "This is where I work," Adrian said, leading him into the corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a living painting, the Hudson glittering far below, ferries cutting white trails across the water. Desks hummed outside the glass walls. Engineers in hoodies debated code on massive screens. Noah wandered to the window and pressed his forehead against the cool glass. "It's like being in space," he whispered. Then he turned, studying Adrian with those two familiar blue eyes. "Do you ever get lonely up here?" Quote. The question landed softly, but it struck like a meteor. Adrian had been explaining the latest satellite constellation, how it would bring high-speed internet to remote villages. When the words stopped him cold. Lonely? He had boardrooms packed with ambitious minds, weekends filled with charity galas and power dinners, a fiancé who fit perfectly into the frame of his success. Yet standing there, staring at the vast empty sky beyond the glass, he felt the truth rise like bile. Sometimes, he admitted, the admission tasting strange on his tongue. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking. Adrian broke business concepts down the way he once explained them to early investors. "It's like baseball. You study the batter, plan your pitch, but sometimes the curve comes out of nowhere and you have to adjust mid-throw." Noah listened intently, then shared how he mapped constellations on graph paper, connecting dots no one else saw. "Mom says the stars are always there," he added quietly, "even when clouds hide them." From then on, Adrian attended practices openly. At the local park, he traded his tailored suits for jeans and a hoodie, tossing balls with Noah under floodlights. His Rolex caught the evening sun as he fielded grounders. Parents whispered behind their hands, "Is that really Adrian Cole?" Quote, but Noah never glanced at the stairs. After one clean catch, Noah jogged over, grinning. "You're getting better," he said simply. The praise, so small and sincere, landed harder than any Forbes accolade ever had. Claire noticed the shift immediately. Over a tense lunch at their favorite rooftop restaurant, white tablecloths, waiters gliding like ghosts, she set her fork down. "You can support them financially," she said, voice low and controlled. "Private school, college fund, whatever it takes. But don't destroy our future for a mistake you made over a decade ago." The word mistake hung between them like smoke. It echoed every excuse Adrian had once told himself. He wavered. The empire demanded constant attention. A major merger was in final negotiations. Shareholders watched every move. Analysts dissected his schedule. Yet Noah's upcoming school science presentation landed on the same morning as a critical board meeting. The boy had asked quietly the week before, eyes hopeful. Promise you'll come? Quote, I promise, Adrian answered without hesitation. The day arrived. In the boardroom, Janet Morales clicked through slides on quarterly projections, her calm voice steadying the room. Adrian's phone vibrated on silent. A reminder. He stood abruptly. Janet, you have the floor. I have somewhere I need to be. Murmurs chased him down the hallway. He drove straight to the elementary school, slipping into the back of the auditorium just as the lights dimmed. Folding chairs creaked under parents. When nose turn came, he walked to the front with his poster board, diagrams of orbits and signal paths drawn in careful marker. His voice started small but grew stronger. Halfway through, he glanced toward the front row, spotted Adrian, and his whole face lit up. My dad builds these, he said proudly, pointing at a satellite illustration. Real ones. In space. Adrian's throat tightened with a joy so sharp it hurt. Applause filled the room when Noah finished. Parents congratulated him. A teacher beamed. Adrian stayed seated, letting the moment sink in. Later, back at the office, his phone exploded. Missed calls from investors. Texts from Claire. We need to talk. Now. A market alert showing a slight dip in Coal Dynamics stock. Whispers in the halls about priorities. Adrian stared at the city lights winking on, realizing for the first time that the empire he had spent 2 decades constructing might be costing him something far more valuable. The storm gathered quietly at first, then broke with force. Shareholders' calls grew sharper. Anonymous leaks to business outlets speculated about Adrian's erratic behavior and personal distractions. The stock ticker on his phone showed minor dips that felt like warnings. Claire waited until evening in their penthouse, the city lights glittering coldly through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She stood by the bar, arms crossed, the engagement ring catching the light like a blade. If you keep playing weekend father to that boy, she said, voice steady but edged, there will be no wedding. Choose, Adrian, the empire we've built together, the future we planned, or them. She gestured vaguely toward the city below, as if Brooklyn lay somewhere in the haze. One mistake from your 20s doesn't get to rewrite everything. Adrian stared at the ring she still wore, symbol of the polished life he had curated so carefully. No's quiet question echoed in his mind. Why didn't you want me? Quote, and Janet's words from a late-night strategy session resurfaced like an anchor. They had been alone in the empty boardroom, coffee cooling between them. You built a $1 trillion company from nothing, Janet had said, meeting his eyes. But I've never seen you fight for anything the way you fight to see that boy smile. He paced the office long after she left, the skyline mocking his solitude. Success had always demanded sacrifice. Late nights, canceled plans, relationships left to wither. Friends from the early days had faded. Family ties had thinned to holiday cards. Lena had raised Noah with love stitched together from double shifts and sheer will. What had Adrian sacrificed his throne for, if not connection? The clarity arrived at dawn. Sharp and unyielding, he called an emergency board meeting for 8 a.m. The room filled quickly. Suits, laptops, guarded expressions. Adrian stood at the head of the table. No slides prepared. Effective immediately, he said. Voice calm. I am stepping down as CEO of Coal Dynamics. Janet Morales will assume the role. She has been my partner in every major decision for the last decade. The company is in stronger hands than mine right now. Gasps rippled. Questions erupted. Adrian raised a hand. This is not retirement. It's a shift in priorities. Coal Dynamics will continue its mission. Connecting the world. I trust Janet to lead it forward. Headlines detonated within hours. Billionaire Adrian Cole resigns amid reports of family crisis. Stock wobbled briefly, then steadied as Janet issued a crisp press release praising Adrian's vision and reaffirming the company's trajectory. Analysts debated, pundits speculated. Adrian turned off his notifications. Claire left that evening. She placed the ring on the marble kitchen island. tears bright but controlled. "You're throwing away everything we had," she said quietly, "for a life you never wanted before." The door closed softly behind her. Freed from the weight of expectation, Adrian drove to Brooklyn the next morning. But first, he headed to the Little League Championship field. The stands buzzed with families, coolers, folding chairs, handmade signs. He arrived early, claimed a seat in the very front row. No cap, no sunglasses, just him, in jeans and a plain hoodie. Heart hammering, Noah took the mound in the final inning. Small frame taut with focus. He glanced toward the stands, spotted Adrian dead center, and his eyes widened. Surprise melted into a fierce grin. Adrian cheered, loud, unreserved, voice raw among the parents. When Noah struck out the last batter with a clean fastball, the crowd erupted. Teammates mobbed him. Coaches lifted him onto shoulders. Noah looked back into the stands again. And for the first time, his father was right there in the front row, present, proud, cheering louder than anyone. Adrian stood as the celebration spilled onto the field. Noah broke free from the huddle and ran straight to him. No words at first, just a tight hug. Dusty uniform against Adrian's hoodie. "You came," Noah whispered. "I promised I would," Adrian said, throat thick, "and I'm not going anywhere." The moment stretched, simple and enormous. Under the floodlights, the Empire could wait. For once, Adrian Cole had chosen something that couldn't be measured in billions. Redemption arrived not in a single dramatic flourish, but in quiet, deliberate steps. Like dawn creeping across the city skyline after the longest night, Adrian met Claire one final time in a neutral cafe downtown. No cameras, no penthouse drama. He spoke plainly. "I thought this life, the ring, the plans, the image, was what I wanted. I was wrong. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you." She listened, eyes dry now, and nodded once. The ring had already been returned. The chapter closed gently, without bitterness. With Lena, the path was thornier. Trust, once broken, rebuilds slowly. He appeared at her Brooklyn door on a rainy Saturday, holding a modest bouquet of daisies, the same flowers she used to buy for their tiny apartment years ago. She let him in, arms folded, expression guarded. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking on the words he had buried for over a decade. "For walking away when you needed me most, for choosing ambition over us. For every birthday, every scraped knee, every night you carried it alone. I spent my whole life building something to be proud of, but I forgot to build a life worth coming home to." Lena studied him for a long moment. Tears shimmered but did not fall. "Words are easy, Adrian. Actions matter." She stepped aside, nose in his room. "He's been asking about you." They began again, brick by brick. Long evening talks on her small balcony, sharing the years they had missed. Her double shifts, his sleepless coding nights, Noah's first steps, Adrian's first big investment. Noah listened from the doorway sometimes, hopeful but cautious. Adrian rented a quiet brownstone 3 blocks away. No skyscraper views, just a stoop and a backyard. He showed up for homework help, baseball practices, stargazing on clear nights. He taught Noah basic coding. Noah showed him how to spot constellations without an app. One crisp autumn evening, Noah carried his patched-together telescope to the roof. The city hummed below, but up here the stars felt close. "Look," Noah said, adjusting the lens. A faint streak crossed the dark. A satellite gliding silently. "That's one of yours, right?" Quote. Adrian nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, part of the constellation we launched last year." He paused, then added softly, "But my favorite thing I ever built isn't up there in space. It's the time I get to spend with you." Noah turned, eyes shining, and hugged him hard. No words needed. The hug said enough. Years slipped by gently. Noah grew taller, quieter confidence replacing boyhood shyness. Adrian and Lena married in a simple backyard ceremony. String lights, folding chairs, family and a few close friends. No media, no spectacle. Noah stood as best man. Suit slightly too big, grin wide and proud. Vows were spoken under Brooklyn stars, promising not perfection, but presence. Adrian poured energy into something new. The Cole Foundation. It funded scholarships for children of single parents, mentoring programs, after-school astronomy and baseball clubs in underserved neighborhoods. Not a headline-grabbing billion-dollar splash, but steady, meaningful support, second chances wrapped in practicality. He spoke at small events, not as a billionaire savior, but as a man who had learned late what truly mattered. The story found its final frame at No's high school baseball championship. The field lights blazed against the evening sky. The stands thrummed with parents, siblings, cheers. Noah, now lanky and strong at 16, took the mound in the bottom of the ninth. 2 outs, bases loaded, full count. The crowd hushed. In the front row, Adrian sat beside Lena, her hand warm in his. Noah glanced toward them once. Quick eye contact, a small nod, and wound up. The pitch snapped forward, a clean fastball kissing the outside corner. Strike 3. The batter froze. The umpire's fist punched the air. The field exploded in celebration. Teammates swarmed Noah. Coaches lifted him high. Adrian stood, clapping until his palms stung. Lena squeezed his hand tighter. He leaned close, voice low amid the noise. I thought success meant never looking back. She smiled, soft and knowing. And now? Quote, he watched his son, tall, happy, surrounded by joy, accept the trophy with his teammates. The winning pitch still echoed in his mind. Perfect and true. Now, Adrian said, eyes never leaving Noah, I know success means finally coming home. The empire Adrian Cole built changed the world, but the son he almost lost changed him forever.